Stoic even. 1/3 of the world's low-carbon energy is nuclear. Everyone in this room uses electricity at some point in their day, from the lights in your house to what it takes to power your TVs. Chances are it's not nuclear. Most of it could be coal, natural gas, or even hydroelectric. But it should be nuclear because nuclear is a viable source of energy. First, I will talk about nuclear fission and how it is used in reactors. Second, I will talk about how an increase in the use of nuclear power could decrease the amount of carbon being produced. And third, I will talk about how nuclear power is not as dangerous as you might think it is. To begin, I will talk about nuclear fission. Nuclear fission is a reaction that occurs on the atomic level. In the beginning, a uranium atom is bombarded with neutrons. This causes the atom to break apart into multiple nuclei. These nuclei then go on to impact other atoms, causing those atoms to also break apart. Now, this chain reaction produces a lot of energy, and it releases this energy in the form of heat. This heat is what powers the nuclear reactor. The heat warms up water to the point where it becomes steam. This steam then spins a turbine, creating electricity. Now that I have talked about nuclear fission, I'll talk about how an increase in the use of nuclear power can actually decrease the amount of carbon being produced. The number one cause for global warming is an excessive amount of carbon in our atmosphere. Over the last 100 years, the average world temperature has increased by 0.4 to 0.8 degrees Celsius. This is according to Lindsay Lau, who is a PhD in economics, as stated in the journal Economic Modeling, published in 2019. Now, warming has a lot of ramifications for the world. For one, it contributes to a rise of sea level, as evidenced in Antarctica, where every year since 2002, 134 billion tons of ice disappear into the ocean. It also affects our weather, leading to hotter than average summers and colder than average winters. Now, fossil fuels contribute to 40% of the carbon emissions related to energy. However, nuclear energy will curb that because it does not produce any emissions whatsoever. The actual use of nuclear energy currently actually reduces the amount of carbon in the atmosphere that is being produced in the atmosphere by 2 gigatons per year, as stated by M.D. Matthew in the journal, who has a PhD in physics, as stated in the journal Progress in Nuclear Energy, published in 2021. Nuclear energy is sustainable and consistent when compared to other forms of low-carbon energy. For example, wind and solar have gaps in their outputs. The wind is not always blowing and the sun cannot produce energy at night. Hydroelectric power is a consistent form of power. However, it can have severe ecological ramifications. Nuclear power can work 24 hours a day, it can meet demands and it can meet fluctuations in demand for energy, and it can reinforce the stability of the electrical grid. Now that I have talked about how carbon can be reduced by nuclear power, I'll discuss how nuclear power is not as dangerous as you might think it is. The core meltdown at 3 Mile Island was the worst nuclear accident in United States history, and it generated a lot of public disapproval for nuclear power. However, the off-site radiation released from that accident was 0.5% of every human's daily background radiation intake from radon alone, as stated by Robert Bruce Hayes, who has a PhD in nuclear engineering, in the journal Cleaner Energy Systems, published in 2022. Nuclear waste is another topic that scares a lot of people. However, the amount of waste produced is very minimal compared to how much power we get from it. Currently, since 1950, the U.S. has produced 83,000 tons of nuclear waste. To visualize that could all fit on one football field at a depth of less than 10 yards. Now, this nuclear waste goes somewhere, so it is transported to a nuclear waste repository. There have been 7,000 transports worldwide of nuclear waste since 1970, and they have resulted in 0 radiation leaks. Nuclear waste repositories are also very safe and secure sites. They are analyzed extensively by geologic experts and water experts to make sure they are safe and will continue to be safe for years to come. First, I talked about nuclear fission and how it is used in nuclear reactors. Second, I talked about how an increase in the use of carbon could decrease the amount of carbon being produced. And third, I talked about how nuclear power is not as dangerous as you might think it is. Nuclear power is a viable source of energy. One-third of the world's low carbon energy is nuclear. Given what we know about nuclear power, it should be much more than that. Nuclear power is safe, reliable, and is the best option for our future.